Hi there. So this will be an in-depth look into the parameters of the app to help you fine-tune your design to your specific requirements. Okay, to do that we'll have to go to the Generate tab and then open this drop down. Then I'm just going to zoom into a site. For this we're going to use a pretty large site. This is a 33,000 square meter location, which is the Company Gardens in Cape Town. So I'm just going to create a polygon to indicate the site boundary. So just click, you click and click, and as I previously indicated, the Vector Polygon tool is pretty rudimentary at the moment. As an architect, as an engineer, you'd want to be able to tell the length you're drawing, the angle, the area as well, but it will get there. Okay, just to note in this drop down, if you've drawn a lot of polygon inputs on your map and you want to clear them, clear all of them all at once, you can hit clear map inputs. And if you've changed the parameters in the script and you want to set them back to the default values, you can also say clear parameters. If you want to clear this specific polygon that we've drawn here, you can just hit this delete button. Okay. If you have specific latitude and longitude values, you can input them in here. So that's another good way. That's a good way of being specific. All right. And also remember that you have the ability to change the view here to a satellite view, so you can get more context. All right. And so now I'm just going to go back to my map view, and then I'm just going to run this. So my advice for you is to, when you've made your site, just to make sure that the generator can actually work on your site. But for a large site like this that doesn't have too many bends or tight corners, it'll work pretty easily. But even for small tight corners, it would work as well, because we've done quite a lot of error handling on the back end to allow that to happen. But just do it in increments is my advice. So for now, we're just going to run this. So I'm going to run it and let you know how long it takes. So that took about 4 minutes to run. So for 33,000 square meter site with 2.5 by 5 meter parking bays and about a 7 meter perimeter route, you can expect that kind of time. Right. Okay. And on this tab here, you can see the site area, the parking count. So here we have 1,243 spots. The green area, which is areas you can't drive or park. So these represented in the islands and these here at the corners. And also the green area percentage. So the percentage of the green areas on the site. So relative to the site area. So the 88% of this site is these green spots. So that these are good metrics to help you make your design decisions. Okay, next we will add movement routes. Okay, now that we've got our first run that's laid out the parking bays, for my workflow, I'll prefer to add the movement routes first. So let's say we want to copy the movement routes actually on the site shown in the map. So what I'm going to do here is just go clear this site inputs, then go to the movement routes, activate that. So just so you know, if you turn these off and you run your graph, even if the movement roots are still in here, they will be removed. So maybe if you wanted to just see what it looked like without the roots, you can then go again and turn it off. All right, so I'm just going to turn that off so we can start drawing. I'm just going to draw about 3 of them. Remember, these polylines expect a minimum of 3 points. If you run it without 3 points, you're going to get an error. Okay, so I'm going to just do that. Double click at the end. Click there again. Add. Okay, and then we can then change this, the width of the roots. Let's say I want this to be about 3 meters. Just type in accurately over here, 3 meters. And then we can run it again. And I'll let you know how long that took. Okay. Okay, so this took 3 minutes to complete. And as you can see, there are routes that have been defined. So you can use this tool to mark maybe routes that cars can drive through. If they're not gonna, I mean, for like main routes, if they're not, that are not these routes between the rows. And just something to note here is that if Dynamo, which runs in the back end, can't create those corner fillets, it's just going to return these sharp corners. So then you can go ahead when you've created it in Revit or your other tools and round them off. But just so it's never empty, we had to do some error handling because of Dynamo's geometry engine sometimes can't handle very fine detail like that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add a few building masses. And also, as you can see over here, the parking count dropped as well. And now we have more green area because we're having more unusable space. All right. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add some building masses. So what we have to do is come here, activate this. Okay, now you activate it, the first input shows up. Okay, so what I'm going to do there is I'm going to click on the pencil to create a polygon. Let's say we don't want parking to be around this existing building. So just the same way you drew the site, and then we go for the next one. I'm just going to draw a big mass over here. All right, and now you can give them heights. So let's say I want this one to be a 30-meter mass, and this one I want to be 50 meters tall. Okay. All right. So then, what we have to do now is just run again. I'll run it, then I'll let you know how long it takes. Okay, perfect. So that took about 3 minutes. 3 minutes to run. And just so you know, the less parking you have, the quicker it runs. So since these buildings take up quite a lot of space, usually goes much quicker. Yeah, so as you can see here, the building's masses were added. So what happens is when the building is close to the boundary, those bays automatically get removed. Although I do think these could have stayed. Just so that is something you can fix when you take it to Revit, but we are looking to improve on things like that. but at least it, it makes it kind of realistic in the sense that, it won't leave bays in areas where they probably won't exist. Yes, so, and again, you see the number of spots gets reduced and the green area increases over there. So the next thing we will do now is to add a green zone, or we call a green area. All right. So now we will add a green area input. So what you have to do is over here, just toggle this, then the green zone shows up. You're allowed about 5 of them. So I'm just going to draw a simple one, just a rectangular shape. And then I'll run it. Just a disclaimer, there's a known bug where if this shape is too complex, it kind of does not work as intended. The parking bays disappear, but I know what the issue is, and before the release it'll probably be fixed, but just in case it is not, yeah, just so you're aware of that. All right, so I'm just going to let this run and let you know again how long it takes. Perfect. So that took about 2 minutes to run. Again, the less parking, the quicker it runs. Yeah, so we've got an area marked out for landscaping, and yeah, or just an area you don't want to build. And here you can see it also places parking around. All right, and again you can see the inputs. The parking keeps decreasing, obviously, as there's more, the percentage of green area increases. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and create, and play with the parking inputs. Okay, now we will dive into the parking inputs. Okay, so I'm just going to open this drop down, and as you can see, the parking inputs have been clearly described with diagrams. Okay, we will run through a few of them, but it should be pretty clear. All right, so for instance, here we have the parking spot width. So let's say you wanted to make this parking layout actually for a truck, for trucks. We can go ahead, let's say make this about 3.2 and then change the parking spot length to, let's say, I'm not sure exactly what trucks are, but I think, let's say about 10 meters. And then we can also rotate, because we can also rotate the orientation of the rows. Let's say we want them to be more about 45 degrees from north axis. We can also obviously type in here as well, but this also describes that the rotation happens from the north and anti-clockwise. But if you hover over these icons, there are descriptions also letting you know what they are about. And we can also change the pattern of the layout. Let's say we want the pattern to be a herringbone pattern. And let's see what happens when we run this for now. Perfect. So that took 2 minutes to run. And as you can see, the layout, it changed pretty drastically because we've made the parking bays pretty long. Now our layout is pretty squashed. So, well, we can do something to fix that, A truck needs a bigger space to be able to move around. So let's say we make that spacing greater. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down. I think that input should be at the bottom. That will be the the perimeter aisle width. Let's see here. The perimeter aisle width. So I can make that about, let's say we made that 15. And just so you know, that that in this instance, and when the bays are 90 degrees, the aisle width controls the row distance, the row spacing. No, sorry, that's actually incorrect. When the bays are 90 degrees, the aisle width is controlled by the perimeter. But when the bays are not 90 degrees, like in this kind of angle, you need to use these one-way aisle width and two-way aisle width. Okay, so let's say I increase this. This might have to be increased for truck design. And this is currently one way, so I'm going to increase this as well. All right, so I'm just going to run this again. Perfect. So that took a minute to run. You can see some weird things happened over there, but the spacing changed. But just for our export, things look right. Let's take the parking dimensions down again. So I'm just going to make this 2.5. Sorry, that's 3. 2.5. I'll make that 5 meters. And because the parking bays are smaller, it'll most likely run much slower. Okay, drop those down again. Change the pattern. Let's say I want the pattern to be number 1 over here. Okay, again, with descriptions you can see what that's about. And now I can also give them an angle, like say 1 stands for 30 degrees. What else can I change over here? So all editable. I can change the spacing between the island, that island spacing, the corner spacing, which is over there, corner to corner, the spacing over there at the convex corners, which is from there to there, also the walkway, and there's many more parameters. So let's just run this again, and then after this, if the design is satisfactory, let's just take it into Revit. Okay, that's a pretty big perimeter, but this will do. Let's just take this into Revit. So that took 2 minutes to run. As you can see, that pattern came in. Yeah, let's just drop the perimeter so it looks reasonable. So I'm just gonna go, let's go back to about 7 meters. Let me type that in and run it again, and then we export. Great, this looks good for export. So all in all, this is taking me about an hour or less. You know, obviously I've been talking and I've been showing you all the functionalities. But if you were just going to, you were just going straight for your parking, you kind of knew what you wanted, it wouldn't take you more than 15 minutes to do something like this. Doing this manually would take a lot more time. And that's the value of, one of the values of automation, right? So now we can export this to Revit. So now we've got our layout. So if we expand here, we can actually just look at the layout on its own. And now we can go ahead and export this to Revit, to Rhino as an STL file, as OBJ, as GLTF. Yeah, you can do quite a lot. Okay, so let's just go ahead and export to Revit. Well, before we do that, I just wanted to show you that if you wanted to change the colors of the elements, let's say the parking, for instance, which is currently looking black, okay, you can change the color. These surfaces, you can change their colors as well. The building colors you can change just by clicking here. You can make it yellow. You can change the color of the site, which is gray in the map view. And you can also change the color of the movement routes. These colors don't get moved into Revit or Rhino. This is just for appearance over here on the app, just in case you wanted to export as an image and you wanted a specific aesthetic, you know. So if we exported this as an image, you can see I've already exported one. So if I just overwrite that, if we export this as an image and I opened it here, you know, just in case you wanted to change that, the look of that, that's also an option. Okay, so I won't run that. It's pretty straightforward. What we're going to do is just run this download file, and this should take about half the time it took us to do this last layout. So that should be about a minute. Okay, let's wait for that. Okay, so that took a minute to run, and now I'm just going to overwrite the previous create elements file, and I'll save. And next we will make this design we've just made here in the Revit interface. Hi there. So now we're back in the Revit environment, the final destination where you can edit the layout you've designed on the cloud and fine-tune it to your specific needs. So to create the layout, all we have to do is open the Dynamo player. The Dynamo player is located over here. And please, in the video description, I've linked a Google Drive folder that has necessary scripts and support files to create the elements in Revit. And in the first video, I also described it. So please have a look at that video as well. So when you've downloaded that folder, you need to go here, add folder, and click on this plus button and look for where you've saved the scripts, the Dynamo scripts that help you create the layout. Okay, and so when you've selected that folder, you say okay, but I've already loaded it in, and so it's going to be this one called Create Revit Elements. Okay, and I'm just going to click on this here in the center, and the inputs show up. So because we have buildings here, I'm just going to call these building masses. Okay, the category I'm going to make mass. The island floor type, the islands that we're going to load in are going to be loaded as floors. So you can choose a floor type from your project. I'm just going to choose standard. The island offset from the base level is also included. And you can also choose the level you want everything to be created at. I'll choose level 1. And then we can also choose the JSON file we downloaded. Okay. And choose the instance, the family instance, which you should load into Revit. It's part of that downloads folder that you get off Google Drive. Remember, link in description. And then you choose the family template. So this one is already correct. So it's a conceptual mass family. So the massing families are included in the downloads folder as well. But for interest's sake, I can show you where they are. So it's usually under your program data, Autodesk, and then RVT 2024, then family templates, English, conceptual mass, metric mass. Okay, sometimes Revit installations don't come with all these installs in these family templates, so that's why I've included it in the Google Drive downloads. So you can just link to that. You can just select that when you've downloaded those folders. Okay, so now all we have to do is run it, and let's see what happens. Might take a minute or two. As you can see, it's already creating it. For the building masses, it's important that you install the Spring Notes package, but the README has instructions on where to save that folder, the Spring package. As you can see, the layout was created, and that actually didn't take up to a minute to load into Revit. And now the great thing is the elements come in as a BIM object. It shows you the length, the width. The floors come in as a BIM object. So you can go ahead and do your normal workflow. You can schedule it, you can tag it, just the same way you work. It looks just right when you go to the level 1. Just looks like a normal Revit drawing. Okay, and the masses also come in as families. It's Revit massing family, powered by the Spring Notes package. Yes, that is it. Thank you. Next, I'll load in let's load in another one. From the samples, just to show you the different designs that are possible. So I'll just go to Manage, Dynamo Play again. And I'm just going to choose another JSON file from my computer. Okay, so I've selected another folder, another JSON file, and I'm just going to run that again. Oh, this is a same site, just a different kind of layout with herringbone and one building mass there. Great. Let's try another. So I just undid that. I'm just going to browse again. Okay, and this one just has parking. Let's run it. So the building mass got left over. And this one just parking. Yeah, as you can see, the algorithm is pretty versatile. You can make all sorts of designs with it, and yeah, automate your workflows. Great. Thanks.